Hey everyone, welcome to Breakout Wednesday for the 31st of January 2024. It's currently 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. First of all, remember this is never financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is simply a video blog on how one trader sees the market, and everyone needs to take responsibility for their own decisions. Okay, I'm going to quickly rattle through some current trades, then I'm going to rattle through two losses that I've recently had and how I've handled them. And then I'm going to do one scan, just looking for massive bases at the end. Okay, first of all, here's a chart of the All Lords. I'm going to flick it to a monthly, and we are nearing this upper range here, which would be obviously a new all-time high on the All Lords. Okay, I still think we're in a bull market. I think we've been in a bull market for a while now, and hopefully we take out that, and we're going to have some, hopefully a good little period. There will be pullbacks, and it doesn't mean there's not going to be vicious stocks that gap down on us viciously, as we all saw the last week or so. Now, quickly getting through some stocks I've been talking about a lot the last few weeks, last 2-3 weeks, that sort of thing. ANZ, okay, the broke out of this massive base here, and it's rallied hard since. Well done for those who took it. There's something to be said for just massive bases in blue chip stocks, right? They tend to have a success rate much higher than little shitty stocks. So anyway, I think there's a lot to be said for just trusting the big bases in blue chips. Now, quickly, the uranium stocks, okay. Bannerman, they've all just been consolidating here. Some of them have been kind of flagging, some of them haven't been flagging, they've just been kind of Davis boxing there, but Bannerman kind of has been flagging, and I'm still in the second half of it. If you just rattle through all the others, AGE broke out of its flag today, and what was some of the other shit? Oh yeah, NXG, likewise. Okay, there's others too, right? Bo's sitting in a Davis box right now. Actually, it poked its head above it today, but they've all been consolidating for a few weeks, and they're looking like they're breaking out. Okay, so that's that. I'm still hanging in there with uraniums. I've trimmed half of most of them except for NXG, and then I'm letting the other half run, seeing how high they can go, because just look back to 2004, as I talked about last week or the week before that, I can't remember, and just look how high some of these stocks can go during a bull market. It'll blow your mind how high they can go. If you think that it's had a rally already, wait till it kind of 10x's from here, and that's the sort of thing that they can do. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that shit is possible like that. Okay. Now. Some of the other big trades lately, there's been NVDA, okay, which has probably been one of my best. Okay, I've talked about this so much, I'm going to crap on. I'm still trailing some on that. What else is there? Microsoft, okay, just perfect base, perfect move. Let's just move on real quick. Well done to those who have been accumulating gear on all the dips, okay, because shit, it's just like, I don't get why you wouldn't. I'm just going to keep accumulating gear on every dip it ever has, right? If I've got the cash sitting there, it's got to be a big dip, but I just think it's a foolproof way to make money. Sun, okay, I'm going to talk about Sun in a little bit later. Let's just talk some of like the other old, long-term things. I've got ResMed, it's rallying up. BHP, my view on all these big miners hasn't changed. Yes, it's had a sharp pullback back to this massive support area bit. I just think these things have been basing, and I just still think it's, I'm bullish on them, but time will tell, might be wrong. Now, the main point of today is to talk about losses, okay? I have probably one big loss a year, where, I try all my trades to have big wins, okay? Like stuff like NVDA, okay? Where we have outsized wins, which really grows your account quickly. Then I try and have really, really, really small losses. A lot of small losses are fine, okay? For example, let me just show you one. I was in and out of IRE so quickly when it broke back down below the day of this breakout here today. And that's a tiny loss. This is my initial stop in case it gapped on the same day, but then down below the day of this break out of it, okay? Another one, a quick loss that I had was APP that broke out, awesome base, thought it was just going to kick ass, had a big breakout day. When I have a nice big breakout day, I then tend to always, I've talked about this heaps before, but always move my stop loss to just to break that big breakout day, you know, and then boom, a small loss. So that's how I like to have small losses, because I can have literally 20 small losses. It doesn't really matter as long as I get one of these every now and then, boom, my account's going to grow, right? But what is out of my control, more or less out of my control, is surprise gap downs on bad news. Okay, I got caught in dominoes. I get caught, I don't know exactly, but I would say I get caught in something like this roughly once a year. I think everyone does, you know. I think that the people who say they don't, whatever, are probably full of shit, or probably don't actually trade, or just a massive, you know, I don't know. I just think that, you know, if you don't get caught in these things, it means you're not taking enough trades. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not putting yourself out there enough, and you're probably one of these people who just sits and never pulls a trigger, and therefore never gets runaway winners. But the flip side is, if you're gonna have swings and not be scared to, you know, to have a crack, you're just going to get caught in the odd, you know, bad news. It's just part of life, and it's part of trading. And, you know, I'm not going to say it doesn't affect me. It definitely kind of, you know, it wasn't the greatest day, right? I had a decent position on that, right? So, you know, a 30% gap down hurts anyone, okay? But I guess it's happened to me enough that it definitely doesn't get me down for very long. I think I had the rest of that day off. I sold out on open, had the rest of the day off. I think I had the next day pretty much just hanging out with the kids, you know, going to the beach, and then I kind of got back into it and started working again, you know. This is just part of life. I think if you're scared of these gap downs, you're not gonna be around, you know, and pulling the trigger on the big winners, and you're just not going to be there to get the Bannermans and the stocks that just go absolutely nuts and make everyone a shitload of money. Okay, you're not going to be having a crack at stuff like Mara, okay, and just letting this thing run and just trying making heaps. You know, you're not, you know, you're going to be so scared of these gap downs. I think in my mind, I'm just like, okay, I just kind of factor this in that. Yes, I want to have big wins and small losses, but every now and then I'm going to have a big loss, you know, and it's going to wipe away some of my big wins. That's life. I think as a trader, it just happens. You've got to account for it. You've got to be mentally prepared for it, and, you know, and then you just need to get the hell over it, you know, move on, you know, and just get on with things, right? So that's that. I don't really know what else to say about it. I just think, actually, there is one other thing to say about it. I used to have a rule. I probably followed this rule for 10 years, where if something broke out, and then I would give it a timestamp. And my timestamp used to be 2 weeks, which was just some arbitrary number that I think Davis used to use. If you read his book, I think there's a quote in there saying that there's no point holding onto a stock for more than 2 weeks if it's not going up. And I literally read that like 20 something years ago, took it literally, and that was my rule, right? I just, like, if something broke out and it wasn't storming up after 2 weeks, I would just literally get out. It was like a time decay thing on it, and boom, I would sell. I stopped doing that because there were just so many times that I would sell and then the thing would triple. Do you know what I mean? And I would say, oh shit, I need to be more patient. You know, I guess the 2 week rule would have got me out of dominoes. You know, in this chop here somewhere. And what I've done over the last few days is a huge review of all my big winners. And I've got to admit, like, it's crazy. If you do this study yourself, you'll probably figure out the same. But about 90% of all of my big winners just broke out and went. They didn't chop about. They didn't break out and bugger around and chop around for ages. They just broke out on increased volume, and they just went for it, right? And so after kind of a lot of reflection and going over, I went over, you know, about 2 years worth of trades, which is a lot of trades, right? And yeah, I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to reintroduce my rule, my 2 week timestamp rule. Okay, we'll see how it goes. You know, I'm going to miss out on some big wins by bringing this back in. but I just think that the big winners are the ones that break out on big volume. Increased volume on the breakout is very important, right, for these big winners, and they just go nuts. Okay, and so that's that. So new rule, an old rule is coming back in. We'll see how that goes. From now on, if it's just stuffing around for 2 weeks, I am out of there. All right. Now, I just want to do one quick scan. I'm going to go into Frank's pattern, press weekly data, and press scan. Okay. What I tend to do after I have a bit of a beat in, like in the dominoes, is I protect my big positions, okay? Like these huge big winners, and I just trail my stop up. Try not to get emotional and do anything stupid, like sell everything out of an emotional fit, which I think I've probably done once or twice, like a long time ago. Just let the winners run, and then look for big bases, okay? Big bases, and really that's simple as that. And so I did this scan, and the 3 stocks that came up, and I just want to run through them one sec. Okay, the first one on this is all weekly charts, right? This is just a big base Frank scan on a weekly chart. The first one's IAG. I can't remember, I've talked about it last week, but there's a lot of base in these insurance names. Okay, this is a huge base, 6.1. And the thing about insurance stocks is that they're not like NVDAs or Bannermans, right? They move slow, they grind, but that can be okay, it's not the end of the world. I mean, ANZ is a relatively slow mover too, right? But it's having a decent move out of this base. And so this is just, if you look through these huge bases and all the big bases out there at the moment, IAG is one of them. The another one in there I wanted to look at was, one sec, was this one, IPG, okay, which is sitting up here with blue sky above it. This is would be an all-time high up here, which is my preference, of course, just to have a complete blue sky above it, breakout zone. On a daily chart, we have a huge base with a tightening right-hand side, and on a weekly chart, it's clean as, okay. I'd be putting my initial, stop down here somewhere and trading this on a weekly break. So I thought that one was interesting. And the other one, which I've already touched on and is a bit of a grinder, but it can trend nicely, and is Sun, okay. And yes, I had this kind of base here, break out of that, and it's come back to test it, okay. Look on the daily chart, it had a nice day today after breaking back into that base. But these kind of symmetrical triangle bases, they commonly will have pullbacks. They're from, to me, the main base here is, look at this. I mean, it's 14.41 high. It's buggered around for forever. It's gone up, tested that price exactly, come back and has had hopefully a pretty shallow pullback, and then a breakout, okay. And if you look at all the insurance names, they all look like this. It's 3 or 4 weeks ago when I was talking about all the uranium stocks looking exactly the same and all basing at exactly the same time. It tends to usually be significant when every single stock in the same sector is basing, especially when they're massive bases like this. So I'm already in Sun in the self-managed super fund, and I'm going to move more money into more insurance stocks. I just think it's a safe bet for me. Okay, that's it. And by the way, that will be, in the self-managed super fund. I'm not really trading these insurance names. I'm having wide stops, and I'm trying to ride these things for, a year or two, and just really sit with them. Because if the All Ords is going to break out to new all-time highs, just do your research. Go back to the last, one of the last greatest bull markets ever, and that run from 202 up to before the GFC, and just look at what some of the names did. Look how nice they trended, and it'll start making sense. Cheers, bye bye.